Mind Buddies pose.
Yeah, howdy everyone. I'm here with my friend Rose. We'll talk about how you, as a designer, can achieve financial freedom and leave your corporate cog and machine forever. Um, I've actually been a fan of Rose's channel for a long time. I ran into her videos when I first got a job as a UX designer back in 2020, and I watched a lot of her videos, learned how to invest. And then we met in person in LA, became friends. So I'm really excited to have Rose on today. Rose also launched a book called Add a Zero. Once you read it, you'll add a zero to your net worth. But before we get started, would love to kind of give some time for our buddies to come in the chat, comment where you're based and like a fun fact about you.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Hey, Sandra from the Bay Area, Tiffany, Seattle. Hola, Grace and Rose. What's up, Yvonne? Hey, so
Hi.
this is really awesome. I met Grace at a YouTube event, and it's so funny because she said she's been watching my videos for like 5 years, and now we're friends and we're hosting events in person, online, and it's just been good vibes. But yeah, we'll just kind of let everyone come in for the next 2 minutes. Grace is based in SF. I'm in LA right now, so we're over here on the West Coast. Hi, Cigar. All is well. Also, okay, yeah, Grace said a fun fact about you. How about that?
Yeah,
Where
I'm
you're
gonna learn about
from
you.
and fun fact about you. Oh, Estelle from Paris. What's up? Claudia, Germany. Are you guys like European or you're just hanging out there? Ooh, we've got India too. Emma from Denver. I used to live in Denver. So awesome. Okay, well, maybe we start with a fun fact about us too.
Yes, Rose, what's a fun
Okay.
fact
I
about
learned
you?
a fun fact about Grace. So we were talking about what's on our Instagram feeds because you know how you can learn a lot about someone by seeing what's on their Instagram. And I shared that my Instagram feed is all like French bulldogs because I have a little 5-year-old French bulldog. He's the cutest. So my partner and I send each other memes about French bulldogs. And then Grace revealed that her Instagram feed is all bunnies and that she basically uses Instagram just to send her boyfriend bunny videos. Or actually, that your boyfriend has Instagram just to send Grace bunny videos. So yeah, that's another thing we have in common. I'm all
Yeah,
Frenchies and she's all bunnies.
I have some more bunnies right here on my desk. Actually, this is a light. It like lights up. Can't
Yeah,
really see it from
actually,
here.
it took me a minute to realize it's not design bunnies, it's design buddies. It
Yeah,
is
but
design buddies, right?
yeah, design buddies, but our logo is a bunny.
Yeah, it's so confusing.
Yeah. Wow, we have the whole world here. We have
know, so
California, we have
cool.
Miami, LA, Netherlands, Rhode Island, SF,
Peru.
Arizona, Canada, London, Peru, Maryland, Germany, Bangladesh, Canada, NYC. Nice. I appreciate everyone from like Europe and especially India for like staying up so late. So I know it's like really late your time. So I appreciate y'all for joining us today. Slovenia. Wow, amazing. Wow, that's
Cool.
awesome.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
let's keep
yeah,
the chat lit. I'm gonna like
yeah.
interact a lot with you guys, and feel free to ask questions along the way. Like, stop me. We're not doing this whole structured Q&A at the end. Yeah. So I feel like it's just more interactive, and you can get more value that way. I can also get more of a feel for where you guys are at. Like, if what I'm covering is too advanced, or I don't want to keep plowing past if like you have a lingering question. So so just talk to me in the chat. Okay, I've got it all open here. And my purpose is to give as much value in the next hour so that you walk away knowing exactly what you need to do to create financial freedom and, like Grace said, not be a corporate cogwheel for the rest of your life, because that doesn't
Yeah.
sound very fun. Oh my God, we have
Yeah.
someone from Cyprus too.
That's so amazing. Yeah, we have like 100 people on LinkedIn tuning in. Thank you all for
Oh my God,
joining on this
cool.
lovely
Should we get
Monday.
started soon or
Yeah,
keep
let's get
letting
started.
people come in? Okay.
Yeah.
Wait,
I can
by the
share
way, I saw
screen.
someone from Potomac, Maryland too. I'm from there. That's what a small world.
Nice.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yay. Okay. Designer's Guide to Financial Freedom. As I was putting together the slides for this, I was like, I really hope the design is good because I'm going to be talking to a room full of designers who will know whether my slide design is nice or not. So just give me a little shout out if you think my slides look nice. You'll see more of them as we go. Okay, so let's start from the beginning about who I am and why we're here. So rewind to when I was 24 years old. This is like over a decade now. And I worked on Wall Street. You guys are like from the design tech world, kind of different world, but usually you get pretty high starting salaries. And so here I was 24 years old. I was making six figures and my first bonus ever was $30,000. And I was living paycheck to paycheck, but then my bonus came in and I thought, oh my God, I'm rich now. And then 2 weeks later, that $30,000 was all gone. Like a Miami trip, a few, shopping sprees, and it was just all gone. And that's when I really started realizing, oh my God, like I can really work really hard all year long. And if I don't have a plan for my money, it's just gonna slip through my fingers and I won't have much to show for my hard work. So that's one side of the story. But then on the other hand, after a couple of years of sort of living this way, paycheck to paycheck, and not really getting my money shit together, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse. Is that okay, Grace?
Yeah, that's fine. I drop
Okay.
F-bombs a lot in my daily life too.
Okay, so Design Buddy is cool with F-bombs.
Yeah.
But so after a few years, I started finally getting my like money stuff together, and I logged into my 401k, which for those of you who don't know, it's like a workplace retirement plan. And because they opt you in automatically when you first join, like they'll opt you into automatically putting a percentage of your paycheck into your 401k plan. I realized that I had made over $17,000 due to stock market growth. And I also had employer match, so that added another like couple thousand to it. So that's when I realized, oh, like there's some value to this money stuff. Like there's some skills that I should learn here, because even the $17,000 isn't much compared to, the $70,000 of salary that I make, busting my butt every day going to work. This kind of money hits different. Am I right? Like just money that you made doing nothing. So yeah, fast forward 8 years later, I hit $1 million net worth at 32. I was able to take a mini retirement. That's me sitting on top of my camper van, just doing a little mini retirement for a couple months. And now I have the freedom to work on what I want when I want. And it's because I took what I learned from these money mistakes in my early 20s and just these realizations of, okay, there is a different way there's a certain way that money works. And if you understand it, you can really use it as a tool to create freedom and create the life that you want. But it takes like a certain set of skills, right? Financial literacy, financial education, just what to do with your money when you get it. So I know you guys, you're part of this LinkedIn Discord community. You really invest a lot in your career, like learning to be the best at your craft and what you do. But the other side of that is I want you to also invest in learning financial education, like what to do with the money you make as a designer, because that'll be one of the best investments you make also, investment in being the best at your career, and then investment in learning what to do with the money that you make in your career. So great move for being here on this live stream. And I guess this is a interesting contrast of where I was at 25 working on Wall Street with this six-figure job versus at 32 when I took this mini retirement. And this is like a key point that I want to make. Your salary is just one piece of your financial picture. And it's not going to get you to financial freedom. Because at 25 over here on the left, this is me making six figures. But as you can see, I have very little in assets, very little in my 401k, and then liabilities. I've got a ton of credit card and student loans, and I was living paycheck to paycheck. But once I started learning how to keep more of what I make, invest it, and do good with the paycheck that I had coming in, I was able to grow a net worth. And so between 25 and 32 is the difference between having a high salary but not having any financial freedom versus 32 years old. This is actually when I wasn't working because I was on that mini retirement. So I didn't have a paycheck coming in, but I was actually financially free, right? So it's a key difference between looking rich versus being rich. Like you can look rich if you've got a high salary, you've got a nice car, you've got a nice apartment, wearing nice clothes. but you have no financial freedom. So how many of you would like to be more like the person on the right and use your paycheck to actually create real financial freedom and not just look the part? Give me some love in the chat, okay? The more energy you guys give me, yeah, thank you, Grace. The more energy you guys give me, the more energy I could give you. So yes, Manlo says the freedom to do what you want, when you want, with whom you want, for as long as you want is true freedom. I love that quote. Morgan Housel, he wrote one of the best books on money, Psychology of Money. So highly recommend that. Okay, so by doing something once, you can set yourself up for life. By just taking the time to learn what to do with your money, you can just figure this out, set it up, and then move on with your life and focus on your career like the ambitious badasses that you are. Okay, so a little more about me. I'm biggest or best on YouTube, and I teach money with my financial videos. And I also recently wrote a book, Out of Zero, which is really, really great. That launched literally last week. And Grace and I will talk to you about how to get a free copy of my book too. Do you want to talk about that right now, Grace, or should we do that later?
Yeah, we can do that now and later for our buddies to come in too. But if you really enjoyed this lovely webinar and you want to post your takeaways on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, or any social media, tag Rose and tag me and Design Buddies. Be entered in a giveaway of a free copy of Add a Zero. So make sure to listen intently, take notes, and post about us. Post your takeaways, and we'll select people from there.
Yay! Okay. All right. So anyway, here's where we're going. Well, hopefully we can get through all of this. But first, I want to talk to you about what to do with your paychecks. So what's a good payday routine? And then two, when to start investing and just how to get your feet wet in that world and get your money to work for you. Because you got to learn how to make your money work as hard for you as you do for it. This can't be like a one-sided relationship. You work hard for money, so you need to make your money work hard for you, right? Isn't that only fair? So that's what investing is about. And then 3, we'll talk about earning more, both in your job and also just as a side income, what sort of side hustles you could do. And then if there's time, we'll just, maybe Grace and I she just turned 30, so we'll just commiserate a little about money mistakes to avoid in your 20s and pass on some wisdom for those of you who are still in your 20s. And then I said Q&A at the end, but honestly, you could just ask me questions here throughout in the chat. Grace, the chat seems a little bit delayed. Is there a way I can look at the chat like in real time? Should I go on LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn works. I think your StreamYard, for LinkedIn specifically, it takes like 20, 30 seconds delayed.
Okay. All right. Well, if the questions are a little bit delayed, I'll get to them anyway. But yeah, so just keep the chat energy going. Okay, so let's talk about what to do with your paychecks. Like a really simple payday routine. Like, remember I said you can do something once and set yourself up for life. If you just create a really simple payday routine and then just like keep doing that for the rest of your career, for as long as you're making a paycheck, you can be set for life. So let's talk about what that payday routine looks like. Because, hey, like just like my $30,000 bonus slipped through my fingers, if you don't have a plan for your money will be gone, right? Like, I don't want that to happen to you. So let's create a plan now so that when you get the raises, the bonuses, and the higher salaries, like you have already a place for all that money to go. Okay, so really practically speaking, we need like a physical space for the money to go. So that starts with opening some of the right accounts. So these are 6 accounts that everyone needs. But really, I would say those first 4 are the ones everyone needs. And then the number 5 and 6 is more optional, or if you're already like at a more advanced level. So checking account, really simple. It's where your paycheck lands and it's where your everyday spending and bill pay happens. 2, everyone needs a high yield savings account. This is for your cushion, your emergency savings, like sinking funds for future bills that you have coming up. And it generally makes a higher interest rate than checking accounts. Right now, you can make around 3.5% to 4%, completely passive interest income on that cash. And so this should be like kind of separate from your checking account. And that's on purpose so that you don't like dip into your savings to fund your, Uber Eats run. It has to be a little bit separate and a little bit out of reach from your everyday spending. Who here has a high yield savings account? Just so I can get a feel for like where everybody's at. Okay, Grace, that's awesome. What do you do in your high yield savings account?
I just put most of my money. Well, I actually put like some money in it, but also most of my money into an index fund, actually. So I can't touch it until I retire. And it tax shields away.
Yeah, is that in your Roth IRA?
Yeah.
Yay, you learned that
Yeah.
from my YouTube video, right?
Yes. And the Fidelity one.
Yay, okay. All right, so we'll get to that. So high yield savings account, and then 3, a workplace retirement plan. This could be a 401k if you're working at a company and they offer one. And if you're self-employed, how many of you guys here are self-employed? Grace said it's like a third of the community is self-employed and the rest is more corporate. So yeah, if you're self-employed, you can also have a workplace retirement plan, and because your workplace is you. So you could have a solo 401k or a SEP IRA. These are basically like the self-employed version of a 401k. And you have to put your own money into it, basically. Okay. And then 4 is a Roth IRA. Individual retirement accounts are like retirement plans that you open. You don't need an employer to like provide you one. And that's the kind of account that Grace was talking about. Okay, Mary Carmen self-employed. Yeah, I figure we always have a mix. So whether you're self-employed or you work at a company, all this advice still applies. So yes, these 4 accounts, you open them up first, and then that way your money has a place to go. Okay, so yeah, I figured this is a little fun like flow chart for if you're not sure which accounts to open. So yeah, take a screenshot if you want, but basically for most people here, you're going to be either let's say the Employee Express, a 401k at your job, a Roth IRA on your own, and then if eligible, you can have a health savings account. This is an additional type of retirement account, but only if your health insurance allows it. And then if you're a freelancer, then open a SEP IRA. That's sort of like the self-employed equivalent of a 401k, and then have a Roth IRA. Okay. All right, let's keep it moving. And then take a screenshot of this too. These are the best places to open each type of account. Who's gonna go open a high yield savings account after this live stream? Because and I'll like share what needs to go in the high yield savings account in just a second. But yes, take a screenshot of this. These are hands down the best places to open these accounts. So after this live stream, go open these accounts, and then let's talk. Okay, so once you have these accounts open, now you're going to start getting paid, right? Or you are getting paid every 2 weeks. When that money comes, whatever lands in your account, that's your take-home pay, right? And you want to create some guidelines, like a system for what portion of that pay is going where. And you don't have to be perfect with this, but it's good to have some guardrails like this, like some percentages. So these are 3 really great budgeting allocations to follow, and you could pick which one sort of suits where you're at in your life. So the power saver is quite ambitious. If you can manage this, especially living in a high cost of living city or working at a startup where most of your pay is like equity and you don't get a lot of cash, or you're just starting out, like 50, 30, 20 would be quite, if you're doing this, you're winning. That's where 50% of your take-home pay goes towards needs such as rent, food, transportation, utilities, anything you need to pay to just keep the lights on and to survive. That's what goes into needs. And then wants is everything that upgrades your life, but you could do without if you absolutely had to. Like coffee runs, going out to bars with your friends, concert tickets, travel, things like that. And then financial goals, we'll talk about what those need to be in just a second, but it's basically anything that adds to your financial freedom, that creates that adds to your net worth. It either pays down debt or it increases your savings and investments. That's what's considered financial goals. Okay, can you guys tell me which one of these 3 you think would be best for you to start with? Like if you just do a quick back of the envelope calculation of your expenses, like which category do you think you could commit to?
As we wait for people to come in, we've got a question from Mary Carmen. Like, what's the difference between a SEP IRA and a Roth IRA? Or are you diving into that too later?
Okay. Yeah, actually, thank you for stopping me with that. So, okay. So individual retirement accounts, they are, first of all, what's good about them is that they're tax sheltered. So any income that you put into them or any, yeah, there's tax advantages to having an individual retirement account, and that tax advantage can either happen later or it could happen upfront. So what do I mean by this? Let's say you put money into a Roth IRA, like maybe you put 5,000 in there this year. Well, that doesn't affect your taxable income right now. Like it's not a, you don't get a tax break or anything, but whatever money that grows into, like let's say you invested 5,000 in your Roth IRA and then you held it for 10 years, and because the stock market went up a lot, it grew to, I don't know, 50,000 in 10 years. Then when it's time to take the money out, you can take all 50,000 out completely tax-free. So that's the Roth IRA. And this is really cool because you're basically guaranteeing a tax-free retirement. You know, like you just put money in and then it grows, it could grow to millions of dollars. This is especially handy if you invest in like a really high growth company, for example. And then no matter how big that account gets, it's all tax-free forever for the rest of your life. So that's a Roth IRA. And that's why I recommend it for most of you guys, because most of you are in your 20s or 30s. So you have a while until you're going to need your retirement money. So in 30 years, by the time you're withdrawing from your Roth IRA, that money is going to be, it's going to have grown a lot. And so you don't want to be paying taxes on the couple $100,000 or $1 million that it's grown into. So that's why I like the Roth IRA, especially with the direction the government is going. Like they usually raise tax rates. They don't usually lower them, you know? So in the future, maybe income taxes are going to be 60%. We don't know. Like the government's pretty irresponsible with their finances. So if taxes are going anywhere, they're going up, right? Okay, so that's a Roth IRA. A SEP IRA is similar to, the way it behaves is similar to a traditional IRA in the sense that when you put money in, that money gives you a tax break. So remember the $5,000 you put into a Roth IRA? If you put 5,000 into a traditional IRA, it gives you a tax break off of your taxable income that year. So if you made 80,000 that year, you put 5,000 in a traditional IRA, you're only taxed on $75,000 of income. So it's a way to shelter your income now, because whatever you put in there is a deduction off of your taxable income. I'm going to find a little graphic that I think would be useful for you guys. But basically, whenever you're looking at any retirement account that gives you tax breaks, the tax break either happens in the beginning or at the end. So with a Roth IRA, the tax break happens at the end, right? Like when you withdraw the money, it's all tax-free. With a traditional IRA, you contribute money, you get the tax break up front, but the catch is later when you withdraw the money, it's grown a bunch and you withdraw it, you have to pay income taxes on what you withdraw. So let's say your traditional IRA, that 5,000 grows to 50,000, then you start withdrawing it, you have to pay income taxes on $50,000. Does that make sense, guys? Before I move on, I'm going to find a graphic that I think will help a lot to understand the different ways these things are taxed. And the reason why I recommend the Roth IRA for most of you is, again, because you like lock in a tax-free retirement no matter what, which is really good. I'd rather just not worry about reducing my taxable income today, but know that whatever I've put in there is going to be tax-free forever for the rest of my life. So a Roth IRA is like the better option for most of you. And then so a SEP IRA behaves the same, and so does a 401k. They behave the same as a traditional IRA in the sense that you get a tax break when you put the money in, but later you will have to pay income taxes. So the question is, do you want the tax break now or in the future? And I always say I'd rather have the tax break in the future so that I have certainty for the future. Okay, were there any questions about, yeah, Mary Carmen says, I'm definitely keeping my Roth IRA. That's a good move. Were there any questions about IRAs? But let me find this. Let me find this graphic that's going to really help you guys.
Oh, Matthew says there, just something to add, there are limits to Roth IRA contributions every year and it changes every year. Yeah, I recall it being like 6,000, 7,000, depends. Right across all Roth IRA. Yeah, there's a limit to it. But definitely max it out if you can, if you all can.
Yeah, it's this year it's 7,000. So if you can, like at the very least, try to put all 7,000 in there every year, because you only get to put 7,000 a year and you don't get to catch up later. Like if you're 35 and you've never contributed to your Roth IRA, you don't get to put in 7,000 for every year that you miss, you know? And you're leaving a lot of money on the table by not putting money into a Roth IRA, because you're going to pay a lot more taxes than you need to. Let me share my screen. Can I do that?
Yeah.
Oh, share screen. Okay. Yeah. So there is this. So this is kind of the question. Like every retirement account gets Roth treatment or it gets traditional treatment. So with a traditional, you don't pay any taxes on the money that you put in. You know, that's tax-free money. Like you put 5,000 in, you don't pay taxes on that 5,000, and then it grows tax-free. But then later you have to pay taxes when you withdraw. Whereas with the Roth, you pay taxes when the money goes in, when you contribute the 5,000, and then it grows tax-free. That's the case for both types of accounts. And then later when you withdraw, no taxes. So really the question is, when do you want to pay taxes, now or later? But like I recommended for all of you guys, I would rather pay the taxes now on your, right now. Like you put in $5,000 of after-tax money, let it grow tax-free and never worry about taxes again. Okay, so hopefully that graphic kind of made it more visual. And Matthew, you're saying hopefully when you're pulling it later, you're in a lower tax bracket. That is a consideration, but I wouldn't make decisions based on whether you'll be in a lower or higher tax bracket in the future, because you really don't know. You know, you might move to a different state that has higher or lower state taxes. You just don't know what your career will be like. Whereas one thing that I can bet on is the government will be raising taxes, you know? So just because of the how much debt the government has and just how governments act, they usually raise taxes. They don't lower them. Okay. Kostov said, I believe there are catch-up contributions if you're over 55. Yes, there are. You can contribute like a couple thousand more each year if you're over 55. But I'm guessing most of you guys aren't there yet. Okay, so let's keep moving on. What did you guys say about the budgeting allocations? Which one would you be? It looks like Tiffany says she would be a steady starter. Good. Steady starter is great. That's really great. You know, like especially in nowadays, if you're able to save anything towards financial goals, like that's a win. So it's a good place to start. And then as you start making more, instead of just expanding and pay and starting to spend more with once, like see about moving to these other allocations. If you're putting 30% towards financial goals, you are in a great place. Okay. All right. So just as an example, in case the numbers help, if you're a balanced builder, you're putting 20% to financial goals, 20% to wants, and 60% to needs. So if your take-home pay is 5,000, this would sort of be the split. And you guys are probably wondering, what sort of financial goals should you like put that money towards? So let's drill into that a little bit more, because like I said, financial goals are anything that improves your net worth, that provides more financial freedom for you in the near or immediate future. That includes debt payoff, investing, and savings. So let's take a look at what that kind of stuff looks like. Okay, so this is a framework I teach in my book as well as all over my YouTube videos, but it's called the financial waterfall. Because a lot of people get confused, like, oh, I heard you're supposed to stay out of debt, and I also have to start investing, and I also need to save money, right? Like, do I just start all of those things at once? No, because that's overwhelming. You just start with one goal at the top, and then once you knock out that goal, then you move on to the next one and the next one and the next one. You go down the waterfall like that. So whatever amount you're putting away in this financial goals allocation, maybe it's $1,000. That's what you have to work with every time you get paid to work your way down the financial waterfall. So you're gonna like waterfall that $1,000 that you're allocating towards financial goals down this list, starting with saving a $2,000 starter emergency fund. How many of you guys like where would you say you are in this financial waterfall? Like and maybe you've skipped a few steps and you're somewhere else, which is completely fine too. Like just say so in the chat if you are. But the reason why I want everyone to follow this order of steps is because if you skip a step, let's say you have credit card debt and then you started putting money in your Roth IRA. Then a couple months later, you're going to see that you maybe have made some money in your investments and made 8 to 10% in the stock market. Great. But you're paying 28% on your credit card debt. So you're actually losing ground, right? You're actually losing like 20% a year, which doesn't make sense. So that is counterproductive. So that's why the financial waterfall exists, so that you do things in the right order so you can get there as quickly as possible without spinning your wheels. Another reason is sometimes you just have to have your bases covered before moving on to more advanced, sexier things. Like investing in the stock market, that sounds really sexy. But do you have an emergency fund to cover you if your company lays you off? That's more important than ever. Like there's so much job uncertainty. I'm sure you guys are feeling it too with AI like coming in and disrupting everything. So it's more important than ever to have that financial cushion. Because let's say you've invested in the stock market and you're doing great and like you sound so smart at cocktail parties, like, yeah, I'm investing, I'm making all this money. But then you get laid off the next day and now you have to cash out your stocks to pay rent. That sucks, right? So that's why this financial waterfall is here, so that you don't have to backtrack. Okay, so saving a $2,000 starter emergency fund, and that's where the high yield savings account that we talked about comes in. That's where you put your savings, and you can just start with $2,000. I hear I saw in the chat someone says it's hard. I'm currently job searching, so saving up is quite hard. Saving up in general is hard these days. But Vivian, if you are job searching, it's okay to not be following. It's okay to not be doing this. You know, like if you don't have income, this kind of goes out the door. Like do what you need to do to get back on your feet. This is assuming you have a stable income. Okay, so it's okay to have like seasons in life where you're job searching, you don't have income, so you're not putting money towards financial goals. That's okay. So this is more just referring to when you have a steady income. Okay, so yes, then after you save up a $2,000 starter emergency fund, I want you to pay off all credit card debt. And the reason why I want you to have the $2,000 before paying off credit card debt is so that you can stay out of the credit card treadmill. Because most emergencies, they just go right back on your credit card if you don't have any cash cushion, right? And then you kind of never get out of there. And then once you've done those two things, then I want you to start maxing out 401k employer match. How many of you guys have 401k employer match at your job? And if you do, you should, after you've knocked out these first two steps, you should take advantage of that as much as possible because it's free money. No excuses to say no to free money. And then after that, save a 6-month full emergency fund. This is like 6 months of full needs expenses, not like 6 months of I'm also eating lobster and going to concerts every weekend type of 6 months, but like 6 months of this is what I need to live for 6 months. Okay, so once you have that, you will feel so rock solid, and then the rest is sort of icing on the cake. Like if you have a 6-month full emergency fund, you have no credit card debt, you're maxing out 401k employer match, like you don't have to do much, and your 401k will grow, and over decades, over the long term, you're going to be set. You're going to be able to build a lot of wealth and feel so secure. So yeah, know that if you get to step 4, like you're already ahead of the vast majority of the population. You know, like 67% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. That means they have absolutely no savings to their name. So think about how far ahead of most people you will be just by getting to step 4. Okay, so moving on. That's what you do with your financial goals. I heard someone asking if you're going to be getting the graphics after the stream. I know Grace puts up the recording, but I also have like a budgeting template and sort of a place where all these graphics live, as well as other investing cheat sheets and net worth trackers and all kinds of like tools to get you started. So if you want that, just DM me on Instagram cheat sheet and we'll get you instant access. Okay, I'm gonna move on to investing soon, but let me see if there were any questions. Grace, did you see any questions to like address before I move on?
There's a quick question. Is this all US based? Do people apply these in different countries, or that's out of scope?
Yeah, so the parts that are US specific are the retirement accounts. But Henry, like the part about the waterfall, this you can adapt this for your country. Like you don't have a 401k in your country probably. That's a very US specific thing. But let's say you're in were you the one in Kenya? You know, there's like UK people, Australian people. So if your country has some equivalent of a workplace retirement plan, like in Australia, they've got superannuations. In Canada, they've got the RRSP, right? So try to adapt it to your country. But if your country doesn't offer sort of retirement plans, a lot of them don't, then just skip it. You just skip it. But you should still, no matter where you are in the world, have a $2,000 starter emergency fund. Maybe in Kenya, $2,000 is a lot. So like scale it down to what would be a comfortable starter cushion. And no matter where you're at, you should knock out credit card debt as soon as possible, and so on and so forth. Okay. But yes, the US is very developed in that sense. We offer a lot of different retirement accounts. So for most countries, a lot of these like retirement account specific steps won't apply to you. So just like skip the step if you're in a different country. Okay. Weijan says an important item before jumping into the waterfall is to know your numbers, calculate how much is the minimum you need to survive each month. Yeah, so that step is basically embedded is like assumed that you'll figure that out. To save your 6-month full emergency fund, you need to know what do you need each month to live on. That's basically like this needs portion of your budget. Like go tally the last 3 to 6 months of all of your spending. And again, my financial freedom cheat sheet like helps you do this. But go audit all of your spending. Use a budgeting app if you have to. It makes it really easy, and see like what are your bare bones expenses. And sorry, this should say 60%, not 30%. That was a little typo. Okay, moving on to Sarul says, what about international employees based in the US? So you're probably you need to have a social security number to open these retirement accounts. So great question, Sarul. You're able to open bank accounts, but retirement accounts probably not. So then I would follow. It depends. If you're going to go back to your home country, then I would follow whatever offerings are in your home country. But if you're not sure, then just stick with the financial waterfall steps that don't have retirement accounts involved. You know, like universal steps are 1, 2, 4, 8, 9, and 10, right? Okay, looks like Design Buddies is super international. Did you know that, Grace?
Yeah, I feel like most people that I meet are based in the US, but I realize we have a lot of buddies like in Asia and Africa too, Europe, all around the world too.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep moving to investing. All right, so investing is the good stuff. Like what I talked about here, this is just putting money in different places, but it's not actually investing yet. Because if you're putting money into a Roth, you've just put money into an account that has tax benefits. You haven't invested yet. Okay, so there's a big difference between accounts versus investments. Like accounts are like the shopping cart, and then investments are like the groceries in the shopping cart. So once you've opened accounts, you've put money in them, now we need to go buy the groceries. Otherwise, you're not invested. So that's what we're going to talk about now. Like once you've opened the investment account, whether it's a Roth IRA or a regular brokerage account, um, you have to like go and pick your investments. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do right now. But before we get into that, I kind of want to get into the why of investing, because I think people sometimes, especially if you didn't grow up in a family of wealthy people who like where investing is just what they do for lunch every day, then it's kind of hard to grasp what's the point of investing. And that's why a lot of us have this hard time breaking out of the paycheck to paycheck, like kind of golden handcuffs, because we don't learn about this stuff. We just learn that it's important to get a good job that pays well so you can live. But what about investing so that you can put your money to work? So I have like two hypothetical people. We've got Karen and then we have Anna. Karen, she's good at saving money. She's good at putting the money away into a savings account and like keeping a portion of what she makes, all of that. And Anna too, except instead of putting it into a savings account, she puts it into an investment. She buys investments with that money. And over 10 years, you don't see that much of a difference. But what's really wild is 30 years later, what the difference is between what Karen has versus Anna. Karen, she just has the money that she's been putting in, 500 a month every year for 30 years. That's 6,000 a year for 30 years. That's $180,000, right? But Anna, she put the same $180,000 in of her own money, but the stock market did most of the heavy lifting for her. So now she has $1 million. And these values are based on historical, actual S&P 500 stock market performance. So, these are not like theoretical numbers. This is actual statistical track record of the stock market. And to put it visually, the dotted line is Karen, who just saved money. She has $180,000 after 30 years. And then there's Anna. And all of this difference between those two lines is the stock market. Anna did not work any harder than Karen. She just knew how to make her money work for you. So are you guys getting this? The importance of investing, like the power of it. This is how you create financial freedom, by learning to make your money work hard for you. Any questions here? Yvonne saying, choose to ask Rose this question when appropriate. Where are the best resources to learn? Okay, I'll get to that. Lots of great resources to learn about investing. Okay, so if that didn't convince you that investing is important, that it's worth learning how to do, then let this be kind of the thing that tips you over. So if you don't invest, if you just save money, like Karen, after 30 years, she has $180,000 saved. But after 30 years, you don't really have $180,000. You actually have probably half of that, because the amount of things that $180,000 will be able to buy you has gone down, right? Because of inflation. Money loses value over time if the price of goods and services goes up. So with the same dollar, you can buy a lot less. That's why like a steak used to cost $2 in the 1950s. Now it's like $50, right? So the purchasing power of the US dollar, this is just since even like slightly before I was born, just gone steadily down. And that's, again, like because the government is financially irresponsible. They'll just keep printing money to pay their debt and kind of like keep kicking the can down the road, and the dollar will just keep losing value. That's just how it's going. So this is all to say it's really important to learn to invest, not just so you can have more money in the future, but just so you can stay in place. I don't mean to be depressing, but if you don't invest, you will be poorer several years from now, like guaranteed, because of how the purchasing power of paper currency goes. So let this be like a wake-up call. I want all of you guys to start investing. It's not even like a nice to have, it's a must. Plus, no one has ever become financially free without investing. Okay, Mary Carmen is asking, what are some starter investments you recommend? I will get into that. Great question. Love the questions, Mary Carmen. Thank you. Okay, so let's talk about, now that we kind of talked about the importance of investing and why it's worth doing, let's talk about the 2 golden rules of investing. Because how many of you, when you think of investing, you think like Wolf of Wall Street, trading, you got to like watch the stock charts every day and be really, really in the know about what's going on with the market and what the Dow Jones did that day and what kind of hot companies are going up and what's the next Nvidia, like all of those kind of very financial jargony things. Like how many of you think of that as investing?
I used to.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Like when you don't know about it, then that's sort of what you think of because that's what you see in the news. But there's actually really if effective investing, there's 2 golden rules, and if you just follow these, you're gonna be good, and you're gonna be making better returns than 90% of people who do this, even professionally. And I'll explain why. So yes, just buy everything and buy gradually. What do I mean by that? Let me just rewind a little bit for those who are like completely new to investing. But when you're investing, you're buying an asset in the hopes that you'll make a return and grow your money in the future. And one of the best places to invest, like, of course, there's real estate, but we'll talk about stocks because this is the easiest place for anyone to get started because you don't need a lot of money to do it. So investing, when you're getting started, you want to start with stocks. Stocks are slices of ownership in different companies. For example, you could buy a piece of Apple or Nvidia or Tesla, and you become a tiny owner in that company. Like you can literally own 0.001% of Tesla or whatever stock. And that's kind of what it's like you're buying a little slice of the pie. And then when Tesla or the company you've invested in makes money, you get a little piece of whatever money they made, of whatever profits they made. And often they'll pay these to the owners in the form of dividends. So dividends are one of my favorite things about investing. It's a portion of the profits that get paid out to you every single quarter just because you're an owner in the company. Who would love to have some dividends landing in their account every quarter? Yeah, I'm telling you, it's the best feeling in the world. I remember my first dividend payment at 23, and it was like, 50 cents, like nothing. But it was like, whoa, it just landed in my account and I did nothing. That was a life-changing experience. Sandra says I usually get dividends. That's awesome. So we love dividends around here. Okay, so stocks are a slice of ownership in a company. When you own stocks, you get dividends. And because a company, if the CEO is doing a good job, then the actual value of the company, the valuation of the company goes up. So you can actually sell the stock at a profit later on also. So you make money by dividends, and you also make money if the company gets more valuable, and then you sell that piece of ownership because that's gotten more valuable. So you sell it at a gain. That's called a capital gain. So those are the 2 ways to make money in investments: dividends and capital gains. Now, the tricky thing is, how do you know which companies will do well enough to pay dividends and to go up in value and so you can sell at a profit? That's the hard part, right? Like it's not easy to pick the next Nvidia or to know what the next Apple is. So that's why. And the good news is you don't have to. Yes, there are people like Warren Buffett who do this all day long. He looks at company financial statements and he's very good at stock picking. But the average person doesn't know how to do this, right? And we have it would be a full-time job. And the good news is you don't have to know how to do that, because the shocking thing is there's actually funds run by professional stock investors, and even they are not good at it. they over the long term, 90% of these actively managed funds where like a professional smart stock investor is like choosing which stocks to invest in, they actually tend to underperform the market. What do I mean by the market? Has anyone here heard of the S&P 500? That's basically, yeah, Grace. It's because of all of my videos that you watch, right? Like you're probably the most knowledgeable one here. So the S&P 500 is sort of like, think of it like a financial playlist of companies. 500 of the biggest companies in the US are in this index. And actually we can take a look right now. I'm going to Google S&P 500 and we can take a look. So Googling S&P 500. So this is an index with the 500 largest companies. If we actually go to Wikipedia, it'll even show us the holdings. Oh, I guess not. Not Wikipedia. Let's do this. S&P 500 holdings. This is good. Yeah, so if you look, these are the 500 components of the S&P 500. These are the largest companies in the US. And this index is kind of like an average of those companies. So, you know, all of these little companies, they go up and down on an average day, but then like as a composite, the index moves based on like all of its components. So that's what you see on this stock chart is whatever it's the S&P 500 is doing is like the amalgamation of what all those 500 component companies are doing. So wouldn't you agree with me that if the 500 largest companies in the States are going up, that it's basically a good indicator that the economy is going well, right? Or if it's going down, there's something not going well in the economy. It's almost like a proxy for the economy, right? Would you agree? So basically, by investing in the S&P 500, you're basically investing in a little piece of the entire economy. And this is the way that the average person who knows nothing about stock picking and financial statements or trading, they can do really well over the long term. So that's what I mean by the market. The market is essentially referring to the S&P 500 because that is the market. That is the 500 largest stocks is basically the entire stock market. Even though there's actually thousands and thousands of companies, they're like really small. So the ones that really move the market are these 500 largest ones. And the statistics show you that even professional stock managers who manage funds that should like outperform, they actually do worse than just putting your money in the S&P 500. Are you guys following? Hope I didn't lose anyone. Any like relevant questions about this? Yeah, so just think about that. People who are professionally trained and paid a lot of money to pick stocks, over 20 years, 90% of them have underperformed just sticking your money in an S&P 500 fund. And the reason why people think like trading and you have to be so smart and really good at investing to pick stocks is because they'll hear about the hot fund that made 130% returns and was an early buyer of Nvidia. You know, like you'll hear about all these hot picks, and that's what appears in the news, like the hot fund that did really well for a year or two. But you don't hear about 20 years later if that fund is still doing well, right? They just kind of disappear from the news. And a lot of these fund companies, they'll just silently close those funds down. They're not going to tell you about it. They'll only talk about the winners. So don't get sucked up into the hype. Even a professional fund manager can't beat the market. So what does this mean for you? It means that you can, it's not that hard. You just have to be able to hold for the long term and just invest in a little piece of the economy. That's literally it. So forget about active funds, forget about trading, just holding index funds for the long term. And an index fund is basically where you're investing in an index such as the S&P 500. I kind of skipped over a slide here, but yeah, so you know, you can buy individual stocks, or you can buy a stock fund, which will give you all these little pieces of different companies. And in one convenient purchase. So an index fund is one type of stock fund that basically decides what's in the fund based on what index it's based on, right? So an S&P 500 index fund will just buy all the stocks in the S&P 500. If you guys have heard of the Dow Jones, there's like a Dow Jones index fund. That index fund is going to buy everything that's in the Dow Jones. There's about 30 stocks in the Dow Jones. Or a NASDAQ fund. That fund is going to invest in the 100 or so stocks that are in the NASDAQ. So that's what an index fund is. Okay. So I think I'm going to skip that part. It's a little too advanced. But this cheat sheet that I offered has a list of basically like the easiest index funds to start building your investment portfolio with. So grab that. But really, like you could do really well with a handful of like maximum 3 index funds, one in a US stock index fund, one in an international stock index fund, and one in a bond index fund. How many of you guys know the difference between stocks and bonds? Should I get into that, Grace, really quickly?
Yes, you should.
Okay, like I'll keep it really quick because there's like more I want to cover, but excuse me. Okay, so remember I said a stock is a slice of ownership in a company? A bond is you're basically giving an IOU to a company. You're lending money to a company. So, and you can also lend money to the government too. That's what treasury bonds are, or government bonds. So instead of buying a piece of ownership, you're lending money. And in return for lending, you get interest payments. And then if all goes well, you get your money back at the end, right? So a bond is an IOU, stocks are ownership. That's kind of the difference. And so as you can imagine, if you just lend money, you get more guaranteed payments, like the interest, but you don't get a whole lot of growth. Like even if you lent money to Apple and Apple went to the moon and became really successful, which it did, you just get your interest payments and then your money back at the end, right? You don't get to benefit from all the upside Apple created. But if you were an owner in Apple, it was more risk because you didn't know if Apple would do better or worse. You weren't getting interest payments or anything reliable along the way. And presumably Apple wasn't paying dividends yet because it was like in early stages and not making profits yet. But you got all the growth. You benefited, right? Because you owned a piece of the pie and that pie got extremely more valuable. So stocks are riskier, but they grow a lot more. And bonds are a lot safer, but they don't have as much upside. So the ideal balance in your investment portfolio is a little bit of both. You have some stocks to give you that major growth so that you're richer in several years. And then the bonds give you a little bit of stability so that when the economy is going through a rough time, there's a recession, stocks will take a hit, right? Because companies, they have to do layoffs and they don't sell as much. So your piece of stock ownership will become less valuable in when it's a difficult economy. But bonds, they're legally obligated to keep paying interest payments, so it's a lot more stable. So the ideal investment portfolio has a bit of both. And really, since we're going for growth, you want to have more stocks than you have bonds if you're on the younger side and you need more growth, right? So there's 3 sample portfolios, and for most of you, the ultimate growth portfolio is the one that's more appropriate, where you've got at least 80% of your investments in stocks, like stock index funds, and then 20% in a bond index fund, so that you get a little bit of stability, but it's mostly growth. And then the stability portfolio, that's like more if you're towards the end of your career and you're like getting ready to retire and you just need more of a guaranteed income versus a lot of ups and downs in your portfolio. So that's when you would flip to having more bonds than stocks, 60% bonds, 40% stocks. And then balanced growth is kind of somewhere more in the middle if you're like, I would say in your 50s or 60s. But until then, the ultimate growth portfolio is the right allocation. Okay, let's keep moving on. Okay, so how many of you are feel like investing is doable after this talk, or just in general? Yeah, great. And it's really not hard. Like, get my financial freedom cheat sheet. There's a list of index funds for different bonds, different US stock funds, and then just buy your investments. And I walk you through it in the cheat sheet. So that's like basically DIY investing, but you also don't have to overcomplicate this, and you can do it. You don't have to do it yourself either. Like there's really great robo advisors out there. Betterment is a great one. This is also in the US, so sorry, international folks, but robo advisors like Betterment and Wealthfront, they'll basically like pick your portfolio for you. They'll ask you some questions about your age and your income and things like that. And then it will put your money into a really well-designed investment portfolio. Or you can hire a financial advisor if you're like making good money and you have kind of complex finances, like you've got, I don't know, you remarried, and so now you have like two families kind of to manage finances for, or maybe you've got some real estate and you're self-employed and you have you're expecting an inheritance and you live in two different states. So like if you've got complicated finances, that's when a financial advisor would be good, because they'll not only advise you on your investments, but on your whole financial picture, like estate planning, tax planning. So a professional advisor can come in handy at that level. But then you have to pay them an advisor fee. Usually it's 1% of all your assets. So yeah, let this kind of guide you. But yes, I really recommend starting with DIY investing, especially if you're just getting started in your career, because it'll make you learn this stuff. It'll make you understand it because you have to DIY. And then you can always like hand it off to a professional financial advisor or a robo advisor later on. But it's a lot easier to make sure they're doing a good job if you've done it yourself and you kind of know what's going on, right? You never want to outsource your money management to somebody and say like, okay, I hope you do a good job with that. Like you want to make sure you understand what they are doing with your money. So yeah, I'm a fan of like starting with DIY investing first and then moving to the others. And then target date fund. This is something I wanted to cover. A target date fund is basically a fund of funds. It's a fund that has a bond fund, a stock fund, different stock funds, different bond funds, all in one fund. So it's like here, instead of you building your own kind of pie with different funds, you just buy one fund that gives you the whole pie, and depending on your target date of retirement, it'll choose the right kind of overall pie for you. So all you have to do is make one purchase. And if you actually look in your 401k, you'll see that most of your 401ks are default invested into a target date fund that matches your age. Okay, so there's a lot of really convenient ways to invest. So just carve out 2 or 3 hours on a Saturday to learn this stuff. Like I said, by doing something once, you can set yourself up for life. This is one of those things. I cannot stress this enough. Otherwise, why are you going to work every day working so hard? So that you can just spend money and like make Amazon and Uber Eats rich? Or are you doing it to make yourself rich, right? This is what investing does for you. Okay. So again, DM me for the cheat sheet. I would love for you to have it. Now let's talk about earning more, because this is kind of where it gets good. Like I want you to have that machine set up of your payday routine. You've got a portion of money going to financial goals. You're hitting the financial waterfall. Then when the money's in these retirement accounts, it's invested in these index funds and it's growing. So I want you to have that machine set up, but then we shift to the earning side of the equation, because you can only invest as much as you earn, right? You can only cover the financial waterfall if you have income coming in, and if you have enough to cover beyond your basic needs and wants, right? So at some point it makes sense to really focus on earning more, but I don't want you to focus on earning more before you've figured out the basics of putting the money that you have to work, right? Like that's why you want to start in the right order. But let's talk about earning more. So a lot of you are working at companies, design. It's a very in-demand career. And I want to give you 2 more theoretical people. So there's Jackie. She accepts the first offer that she ever gets at $65,000, and she gets standard 2% raises every year. Aubrey, she actually negotiates her starting salary. She doesn't take the first offer. So they offer her 65, but she negotiates to 75. And then she gets the same standard 2% raises as Jackie, but every 2 years, she also negotiates an additional 2.5% increase. Doesn't seem like much, right? But check this out over time. Lifetime earnings after a 30-year career, Aubrey has made over $1 million more than Jackie. Like, isn't that wild? Just little starting bits, like $10,000 difference in starting salary, just a few percentage increases throughout her career that Jackie didn't negotiate for, and over time, that's $1 million difference. So learning to advocate for yourself and earning what you're worth is really, really important. Okay, so are you guys following so far? I wish the chat wasn't so lagged. Okay, so yeah, like Grace is teaching you all of the design tricks and you're learning how to up level in your skills so you can be more valuable. But I don't want to say what's the point, but if you're making yourself more valuable by investing in your design skills, then you should earn more money to be compensated for that value, right? The more value you provide, the more you get paid, but you won't get paid if you don't negotiate for it, because very few employers will just say, hey, I've noticed that you've really improved your design skills and you've added so much value to the company. Here's a raise. That's never going to happen. You have to proactively advocate for yourself. Okay, good. You guys are getting it. So let's talk about that. Grace, have you ever done like live streams or teachings on how to negotiate more pay as a designer?
We have actually.
Okay.
Negotiating like more pay as a freelancer, but also as like a W-2 employee.
Yeah. So good. Grace has got you covered on that end. So I'm not going to go too much into it. I just wanted to show you the impact, because the more you negotiate your pay, the more you have to invest, right? It's all about having more money to put back into your sort of financial freedom flywheel of money that's working hard for you. So Grace, is it not worth getting into like how to negotiate your pay? You already kind of.
We should do that. I feel like it's always a question people ask on Discord, and we'd love to hear your perspective on negotiating too.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're a freelancer or employee, they're both essentially the same, but I'll cover both. So the attitude to have when you're negotiating is there is an element of just mindset. Like, you just need to be confident that you deserve what you're asking for. But the other side of it is you want to have actual real things to back it up. There's nothing more annoying to an employer than saying like, oh, I would like a raise because my rent is really expensive and I really want to pay off my student loans. Screw that, right? Nobody's going to say yes to that. It's not about you. It's about what's in it for them. Why should they pay you more? And so you kind of have to think about this proactively. Like, be an Aubrey, not a Jackie. Be proactive. So every at a minimum every 6 months, you wanna negotiate your pay. And in those 6 months, you're not just coasting. You are proactively finding ways to become more valuable to your employer. So let's say it's September. 3 months from now is March. From now until March, find what would be projects you could take on that would make you indispensable and make you look like an absolute fucking rock star to your employer. So you just find out, like, you could talk to your boss, see what's important to him, like what are his metrics for success, what does he need to get a bonus, and then you're on his team. So how do you help your boss get his bonus and make him look good? That's really the question. And so that's going to be different. Like, can you think of an example, Grace, in a typical like design job? What are things you could do to make your boss look good and add value?
Yeah, I like that suggestion. Just like kind of asking your boss how they measure success, but also being aware of like when these performance review cycles are, building relationships. Like, at least in my experience, I worked at a large tech company. A lot of promotion has to do with how leadership views you. So you need to play the game. So like, it's good to like set up coffee chats one-on-ones with leadership and see what company goals they are, help them out, do some slide decks. Slide decks is actually how I got promoted like 3 times in 3 years as a designer. It has nothing to do with UX design. I'm just sharing like the brutal honest truth. But just take like a couple hours a week to like help like an executive the slide deck. They write you a good performance review, and you will probably get promoted because their feedback on you has higher weight in a big tech company. And kind of like also like kind of if you guys are not working a W-2, maybe as like a freelancer, figuring out what does success look like to the client, kind of figure out like how much money they'll be making with your work and try to pitch yourself for more and utilizing your experience too. So like at a W-2 job, find out what makes it successful, but sometimes you gotta play the politics game. It is the reality of life. But learning how to like rizz up the leadership. That's like unconventional advice that I did. Rizz up the leadership.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. Like you have to have the goods to back it up. You can't just have leadership like you, but you're not performing. Like you need to be good at your job and come up with projects that you can talk about to leadership. But the other side of it is this like politicking and schmoozing where you don't get a raise if leadership doesn't know that you've been doing all this and if they don't like you. So you have to be like personable and build relationships with the right people and make sure they see what you're up to. So that's the other side of it.
And documenting your wins. Documenting all the wins and saving like if someone like from leadership says like good job like on Slack, screenshot that and include that in your performance review. Like document it, otherwise you'll lose it.
Okay, that's so good. So I recommend everyone start what I call a why I'm awesome file. Maybe like on your phone, or I have mine as a folder in my Google Drive. And this could be both like personal wins that just make you feel good and also like concrete wins. So if someone slacks you and says, great job on this, you did this and that helped our bottom line by 20%, like screenshot that. An email that says, thank you for your work on blah, 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 that really helped us look good for the client and win X amount of funding or whatever. Screenshot it and then put it in your why I'm awesome file. And then 6 months from now, you should have a really strong case for why you deserve a raise. So you got to have the numbers, but also have the schmoozing relationships to be able to ask for a raise. So there's both sides of it. But yeah, I think Grace brought up a great point. Like you can work really hard, but you have to learn how to advocate for yourself too.
Rizz up leadership.
That's exactly. That's right. She's like taking notes. Okay, and then the other thing I want to say is this applies to employees and freelancers, is you always want to be making market rates. And the thing is, when you stay at a company or you've had a client as a freelancer for a very long time, like over time, they're just like grandfathered in at a certain rate, but it's been 5 years and you're no longer making market rates because the market changes, right? You get better, so now you get more experience, so you should be charging more, both as an employee or freelancer. And because of inflation, like things go up, but you're still getting paid what you got paid 5 years ago. So you always want to make sure you're making market rates. As an employee, the best way to do that is always kind of be job hunting. Always. Like even if you don't really want to move, just like look around on LinkedIn, see what the target compensation rate is for certain jobs that you are qualified for at your current experience level. If there's headhunters calling you, just take the phone call. Like, why not? And be like, oh, okay, well, what's the compensation for this kind of role? And then they say it and it's like higher than what you're currently making. That's another piece of data you can bring to your negotiation discussion of here's all the value I brought, here's all the evidence, screenshots of everything that I did. And also market rates are more like this. I could get this at a different company with my current experience level. So therefore I would like an X% raise, so you always have like numbers to back up the amount. You're not just saying, hey, I want 20% more because I want to move to a nicer apartment. It's like, because this is where market rates are. You always have backup. It's really hard to argue with that. Like, this is market rate. This is what I would get anywhere else, So always make sure at a minimum you're getting market rates. And of course, aim for the higher percentile of that. Like you can say, because there's always a percentile, like what is it? Maybe the median of someone at your age, experience level in your city, is making 80,000. That's the median. But if you were in the 90th percentile of that, you're making 100. So you could say my performance warrants 90th percentile pay because look at my performance. Look at all this stuff that I've done for you guys. So I'm currently making the median, but I deserve 90th percentile pay. That's another way you could kind of work the numbers discussion. So just find a way to like justify your number with some sort of data. That's it. And then as a freelancer, the best way to keep in touch with market rates is when you get new clients, you gotta like always charge a little more than you're currently charging and test the market. And you can always negotiate. They're like, oh, maybe that's too high. You can then come back down, but always test it and see if they'll pay it. And then if your new client agrees to 50 an hour, but your old client from 3 years ago is paying you 30 an hour, then you can approach the conversation very diplomatically, but now you have solid justification for why you need to raise your rates. And the best time to do that is after you've done a really good job for your client. Like you've like crushed the project and they're so happy with you. They're so happy that they hired you as their freelancer. And then you kind of have a delicate conversation of, hey, listen, like I actually have an exact script in the book too, which you guys can all win a copy of. But the best time is say, hey, like you need to have justification due to the increased cost of business and my increased skill level in this area. I'm raising my rates from 30 to 50, and my current clients that's what I'm charging them. But because you're a valued, loyal, longtime client, I'm happy to keep it at 40. So then they'll feel special because they're getting like preferential treatment because they're a longtime, loyal client. And they're like so happy to have you because you just crushed it at a project. So the timing is very important. And then just kind of having that talk. So yeah, just like learn these skills once. It feels uncomfortable asking in the beginning. Like I know you guys love what you do and it feels weird to like ask for money, but that's what you got to do. That's the mindset. So you can be like Aubrey and not Jackie and make $1 million more over your lifetime. This really makes a difference. Okay, so that's the earning more side of things for if you're an employee or a freelancer. But let's talk about the ultimate part of earning more, which is making passive income. Because Grace kind of requested this as one of the topics, right? Should I get into that? Like side income, passive income ideas?
Yeah, let's do it. Employers can drop you anytime, so don't be loyal. Also, another thing to add is talk about money with your peers. Like, find out how much your coworkers are making and how much you are making to make sure it's fair too. And don't be sad about it. Don't be like nervous about it because I'm sure they want to know too. So ask your peers how much they're making today.
Yay, that's the best way to get market rates, right? To have a sense of market rates. I mean, there's a lot of great websites like, what is it called? What's that website that's really good for tech people? I forget off the top of my head.
Blind?
Yeah, there was this other one. I can't remember it. But yes, there's websites or just talk to your peers. That's the quickest way. Mm-hmm. Okay, but side income, side hustles, passive income. So this is the key to financial freedom, is money that doesn't require you to trade time for money. And that's how I was able to do it because I started investing and now I have money working for me. So I don't have to work if I don't want to. Working is all just optional to kind of upgrade my lifestyle. But another way I did it is working in a way where I'm not directly trading time for money either. So that when I do work, I'm generating, levels.fyi. Thank you. That was the website. So this is kind of where like investing is the ultimate form of not trading time for money because you're not trading any time for money, right? You're just making money on zero time. Like when you get a dividend payment or a bond interest payment, or you sell an investment at a higher price than you bought it for, did you do any work or trade any time to get that money? No. So it's the ultimate form of like breaking free of the trading time for money equation. But there are other ways to break free, such as doing a side hustle that allows you to make money in a leveraged way, in an exponential way. So what do I mean by that? Well, there's exponential income and then there's linear income. This is the difference. Like in the beginning, linear income makes more because like you show up at work, you get your paycheck. Show up at work, get your paycheck. Show up at work, get your paycheck. It's very reliable. It's like clockwork. and you know you're going to get paid as long as you show up and trade your time, right? So in the beginning, it's very reliable, but over time, exponential income completely overtakes. And this part is where you reach financial freedom. So the two ways to create this kind of income curve is, one, invest. So in the beginning, your investments aren't making much, your salary is making way more, because it takes time for the money to start growing and then compounding, and then that snowball effect of compounding returns on your money to really kick in. So at first it's really slow, but towards the end it gets bigger and bigger and faster and faster. That's how, the $500 a month turned into $1 million. Remember that over the 30 years? But another way to make this kind of exponential income is to find a way to package your services in a way where you're not directly trading time for money. And to understand this, I want to cover this concept called leverage. I mean, you guys know the word leverage. It's basically where you can make a huge result with very little effort because you use this mechanism called leverage. So trading time for money, like you're a freelancer, you do design services for a client, it's project-based, or you work at a company as a designer, you're trading time, right? So there's no leverage there. It's one-to-one. Or one-to-many is the next level of leverage, where in the same hour of time, you can serve more people. You can do more in the same amount of time. So this is called one-to-many, where you're multiplying your time. And I'll give you examples in just a minute, so it'll all come together. But one-to-infinity is where you could theoretically serve an infinite number of people and provide an infinite amount of value in the same 1 hour of time. The ratio of money earned per hour of work. Because when you're serving more people, you can charge all of those people money, and you're getting paid more, right? So an example is, I like to use the example of a personal trainer, but I'll start with a personal trainer, and then we'll kind of come up with a design example. So a personal trainer doing personal one-on-one sessions in the gym, you'd make $100 an hour. And let's say you have 5 clients a day, and you work Monday through Friday. So that's $500 a day, 5 days a week. You're making $2,500 a week. Am I right? If you're trading time for money. So in a month, well, yeah. So you're making $2,500 a week, and you're kind of capped there unless you want to work more and have no life. But then, what if the trainer decides to do group fitness classes? And instead of charging $100 per fitness class, you can't do that because for group classes, you can't charge as much as one-on-one. But let's say he charges $20 per person for his group fitness class. And there are 10 people in his group fitness class. So now he's making $200 per class, right? $20 for 10 people. And let's say he's doing the same 5 hours of work, 5 classes a day. So now he's making $1,000 a day, right? Did I do that math right? $200 times 5,000 a day. So now he does that Monday through Friday. He's making $5,000 a week. So he went from $2,500 a week to $5,000 a week. He just doubled his income by going from one-to-one to one-to-many. Is that making sense? Okay, now the really ultimate is when you reach one-to-infinity. How can a personal trainer do that? He records a whole workout training course, like a program, and makes some PDFs of workout nutrition plans. And now he's selling this program for, I don't know, come up with a number. Maybe he's selling it for $20. Maybe it's a really low ticket program. But now he builds systems in place. Social media following definitely helps, or he has funnels with paid ads and kind of using technology and marketing systems to sell this course in his sleep. So now he doesn't have to, it doesn't even matter if he works 5 days a week or 5 hours a day. He's selling this when he's sleeping too, or he's on the toilet. And so his income's potential is unlimited, right? So there's different skills that you have to master to transcend each level of leverage. But as a designer, you can still do design, use design skills. You're just doing it in a different way, and you have to learn some other skills to jump to other levels of leverage. So as you think about how to use your design skills to create more financial freedom, I really want you to think about how you can serve more people or break the link between trading time for money. So Grace is actually a really great example. She was a UX designer and she got all this experience at these companies. And then she decided to start a Discord where she's serving many, many people. There's like 80,000 people in this Discord, right? So she found a way to use technology like Discord, and she also has people helping her out. She's got like admins and all these people helping her run design buddies, and she pays them. So now she also has a team helping her create more leverage with her time. So she's serving 80,000 people in less time, and then she also has these design boot camps, right? That are what, $5,000 for 6 weeks or 3 months or whatever.
10 weeks. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
cohort.
for 10 weeks. Yeah, so that's a great example of how Grace went from one-to-one, just being a UX designer, to creating one-to-many leverage by putting together these programs. And it does take different skills. So Grace does a lot of social media content because you have to, like, by serving more people, you need to have more people know about you, you know? Like, you need to market yourself and build your brand and be known to the world, and also understand like advertising and marketing and sales. So it's just a different set of entrepreneurial skills, but you still have to understand design, right? So isn't it so much easier to, if you're going to be in the design career, you might as well do it in a way where you're making this type of income instead of just trading time for money. So does anyone have questions about that? Can we think of other ways, Grace, that people can transcend trading time for money in the design field? Okay, I have an example. Another example is maybe you create a design app, like some sort of app. Like Canva is a great example. You know, the woman who founded Canva, she was a designer to begin with. And she built this app called Canva to help millions and millions of people make amazing designs without having design level skills. She's serving so many people, like doing so much good in the world and making a ton of money doing it, because now like Canva sells these monthly subscriptions. What are some other examples, Grace?
I thought of doing like a Patreon. I feel like growing a social media following is very helpful because you have an audience who is willing to like support you or want to learn from you too. So like more like Patreon with different offerings, like giving feedback and stuff. But it all comes down to getting a good foundation and working in design, like experience in design. I feel like most people here are probably like earlier in their career. I think it's good to work a couple of years in the industry to build up your skills, build up your credibility, so you're qualified to give people advice, and you can charge for it as well. Yeah, but also like getting good at marketing, branding, negotiating is the best thing you could do. Like, I feel like I was able to quit my corporate job because I negotiated a bunch of like brand deals with people, know how to market, speak the language of these marketing teams too. Um, yeah, there's so many ways designers can make passive income, whether it's like teaching other designers, building a software tool. It could be like from a pain point you're facing in your career today. But it all comes down to having design experience, so you understand your target demographic and users. That could be your potential customers, supporters, community members, and more.
Yeah, I think this is a good point. It starts with the basic design skills. You know, like as a personal trainer, you can't create a program if you don't understand personal training. So for a lot of you like starting in your career, I would gain as much experience as you can. Try to like work for experience too, not just money, like to get experience, because then you become more valuable, and then you can find different ways to package that skill into different income streams. So that's probably a good place to focus for a lot of where you guys are at right now. And then the other thing that Grace touched on is, don't just be a good designer. Learn the business side of things, like negotiating, whether you're negotiating your own pay or starting or negotiating like your own brand deals, negotiating like selling yourself and talking like money talk, the business side of things. Like learn that side too. Don't just be like a technician, you know, who just knows how to do design, but you don't know the money side of things. But the sweet spot is having both. That's when you're like dangerous. You know, you're not only really good at what you do, but you're really good at making sure you get paid a lot of money doing it. That's when you're really dangerous in a good way. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my talk. Was there anything else, Grace, that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, that was great. I hope everyone can start like a high yield savings account, put money in their IRA, whatever equivalent in their country, and start a side hustle, invest in stocks, and talk about money to their peers. Make sure you're getting paid well. I actually realized I was being underpaid when I was at EA, because I actually started as an intern, and the full time salary depended on like increases from your intern base salary. So yeah.
Mm,
Um, I'm gonna scroll, see if there's any questions. I mean, I feel like I want to highlight this quote answer. So Christina asks, "How do you find freelance clients out of family?" So Jeff says, "I know there's a big question from people in Design Buddy." Jeff says, "I target small businesses. I have a spreadsheet with all my leads, and I draft text messages, parsing my data to ChatGPT. It generates curated text messages. That's really good. You're utilizing AI to help you write cold messages to people." Um, yeah,
that's smart.
there's a bunch of questions up there that kind of dives into like more stock stuff. I'm trying to find. If you guys have more questions, feel free to drop them down. I might miss it um, as I scroll up. Doo-doo-doo. Oh, more like a tactical questions. Like for people who want to start investing, do I just open a stock account or ETF account and start buying products over there? Is that how I invest? Like, how do people like? Is it like there's like Fidelity, there's like Vanguard? Just make an account. What are the like the brief differences of each?
Yeah, I should have covered that more actually. So there's if you want to start investing, first you need to open an account because you can't just like buy investments. You know, they're not like apples that you just pick up at the grocery store. You need to open an account where you can buy investments. Like I said, that's like the shopping cart. You need the shopping cart. So that's the account. And then you can buy investments in the shopping cart. So open the shopping cart first. And the types of shopping carts are we've got Roth IRAs, we've got SEP IRAs, we have traditional IRAs, we have HSAs. These are all different types of investment accounts. The ones that I listed are like tax advantaged retirement accounts. Or for a lot of you in like countries outside of the US, you won't have those. So you can just also open a regular brokerage account. This is like a regular brokerage account. It's taxable. There's no benefits to owning it, or there's no benefits to putting money in it or holding investments in it. There's no tax breaks, but it's just a plain old investment account. This is another type of account you can open. And yeah, at least in the US, the best places are Fidelity and Vanguard. I kind of shared that slide way earlier. Like there's so many brokerages. And again, this is for DIY investing. If you have a robo advisor, that's different. Like somebody mentioned Acorns, that's an example of a robo advisor. So yeah, here. So whatever type of account you want to open, these are kind of the brokerages to look at. I really recommend Fidelity for all of them. One account I forgot to put on this table is the taxable brokerage account, the regular one. And for that, you can use the same recommendations: Fidelity, Vanguard, or Schwab. Yeah, so buy the account, put money in the account, and then you can buy stocks, ETFs, index funds in that account. But yeah, check out my financial freedom cheat sheet. It walks you through all of that.
Cool. Question by Ivan. Who and what are some of the current resources you recommend to everyone to get started, but have helped you evolve your knowledge to this day?
Yeah, current resources. So I think it's important to first understand the basics. So books are a great place to start. I feel like the internet just gets so distracting and there's a lot of hype when you're trying to learn about money. It's like a lot of brokerages or people like peddling their own financial products and services. So I feel like the internet there is like a lot of like self promotion involved. So for a good place to learn investing, like from a non-biased, sane, non-distracting place, I recommend books. So where did I learn investing? Jack Bogle, if you go to rosehahn.com / because I have a list of my favorite books. Let me just see what the URL was. rosehahn.com / favorite things, or just go to my website rosehahn.com, and there's this place on the menu called favorite things, and I actually have my favorite books on there where I learned everything I know about money. So books. You know what? Okay, let me just make sure. Yes, yeah. All this has all of the website, all the books that helped me learn. Like the Little Book of Common Sense Investing is such a good one. John Bogle, he was the founder of Vanguard, and then Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's a classic. For Money Mindset, Think and Grow Rich. And then Tony Robbins, his book Unshakable, that's such a good one too for really learning to become confident as an investor. So books, I say stick with books to learn the basics. And then as for like current resources to stay on top of the news and things, like I said, be careful with the internet. Like don't get your financial news on social media. Again, it's people just content creators, they need to get views. So they're just gonna create content that gets views, which usually is like bad news. So like get quality information from good journalistic resources. So if you want to kind of start getting familiar with the world of financial lingo and the economy and just feel like confident and in the know, then I wouldn't go anywhere else than either the Wall Street Journal or the Economist. The Wall Street Journal is a daily newspaper, and just reading like the first page or one story from the money and investing section will like you do that a couple times a week, like you will start really having a pulse on the economy and what investors look at and what's going on. You're gonna feel awesome. And then if you're more of like a weekly news magazine type of person, like you don't want to do daily newspapers, then The Economist is a great one. And they have a section called Finance and Economics, where they always talk about the markets and the economy and interest rates and the Fed and all those kind of things. So yeah, those are the resources that I would start with. Get your foundation with books so you know the lay of the land, and then start watching or reading the news from like quality financial sources.
Awesome. Yeah, I see some of my favorite books on here too, like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, 4 Hour Work Week, Psychology
Yep, those
of
are all
Money.
so good, life-changing. Oh, and then of course
Yeah.
my book, Out of Zero. I
Yeah,
should
At a
put
Zero.
that on
Yeah.
there too.
Yeah, so if you guys want to win like a free copy of it, just post your takeaways here on like LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, tag Rose, tag Design Buddies, and we'll select some winners for you to get a free copy of Rose's new book, Add a Zero. Once you read it, you will add a zero to your net worth.
Yay,
Yeah,
thanks
another
for
figure.
having me,
Yeah.
guys. This is so much fun.
Yeah, this
Great.
is so great. Awesome. There's a couple more questions. Maybe we can like speed through them if you
Yeah.
have some more time.
Yeah.
Amir asks, if you can go back to your 18-year-old self, what's the best piece of financial advice you would give?
Oh my God, so many. But at 18, the best one would have been like by doing something once, you can set yourself up for life. Like, because I didn't have family members who knew like the power of just investing a little bit at an early age, and then you can work a lot less and make a lot less effort later on just by doing something, setting something up once. So at 18 years old, I would have told them, just take $100 a month and invest that in this one index fund. That's it. And no matter what you do, college gigs, your first job as out of college, just keep investing $100 a month. And I would have seen, and then at probably by age 30, I would have seen how much that grew. We could actually go through the exercise. I would have seen how much that grew, and that would have given me enough to like buy a house, down payment, at 30 years old, without just putting $100 away a month. Like people, if you didn't grow up in a wealthy family, they don't show you just like how doing a little makes a lot. Like we grew up, a lot of you guys are from, immigrant families too. Like I can see a lot of diversity in here. We're just told to work hard. You got to work hard for your money. But rich people know how to make money work hard for them. They don't work that hard, actually. you shouldn't have to work so hard. Not if you know how to make your money work hard for you. That's the skill where a lot of us aren't like kind of drilled. It's not drilled into our heads. If someone had told me at 18, just okay, you're working hard for this money, just put a little bit into the stock market because here is what it could grow into. And then at 30, you can buy a house and not having done anything extra for that, you know? That's the one piece of advice. So like learn this stuff now, because by doing something once, you can set yourself up for life. That was such a good question.
Yeah, diversify your investments. And yeah, there's a lot I could say to my 18-year-old self, but yeah, also. Yeah, there's yes, you can post on Instagram stories too. Yes, the meeting is recorded. I guess one last question, more like specific one, more tactical for like W-2 employees is like, is it possible to have company dividends go right into your IRA?
Is that like the company that you work in or the companies that you invested in?
I guess the work in, because let's say you have like the ESPPs and stuff. I'm not really sure. I think they're like separate accounts.
Hmm. I don't want to assume, so I'll just kind of answer in both ways. So, Tiffany, if you're referring to companies that you've invested in, then if you've invested in that company, like you invested in Apple stock for whatever reason in your IRA, then the dividends will go into your IRA. It'll like go into the same account where you bought the original investment. But if you're also talking about like employee stock plans, for example, like you get free stock as in the company that you're working at as part of your employee compensation package. If that's what you're talking about, um, no, not as far as I know. Like you get free stocks, but that's gonna be in a regular brokerage account. It's not gonna be in an IRA. You know, your company doesn't get involved in that. Um, and then so if you own stock in your company and it's paying you dividends, it's just gonna go into that account. But what you could do is take that money, if you're allowed to cash it out and sell it while you're still on the job, you can cash it out and then put that money into your IRA as a contribution. Oh, Tiffany says, I'm not working, but it was a thought I had when you said put it into your savings. I see, I see. Yeah, and actually, I like what you're referring to, Tiffany, is taking money that you didn't work to earn and using that to invest more. That's really, that's the power of, that's why you see the exponential growth at the end, because you just keep making more money that you didn't work for, and then you can invest that money, and then that creates more money. That's the snowball effect. So I like where your head is at. If you're not working, but you've got dividends coming in, put that into your IRA. It's better than nothing, right? Or you can use that money to just to like bridge you over until you get a new job.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, great questions, everyone. I appreciate y'all for hanging out with us today and asking really detailed questions. Hopefully, y'all will win a copy of the book, Roast's book, Add a Zero. Is there anything else you want to share with our buddies today?
Um, I guess like last words of wisdom. Yeah, like don't forget the money part. Don't be so focused on becoming a great designer that you forget that what all this is for. It's to make your life better. It's to create freedom in your life so you can have options. So yeah, like people who are really passionate about what they do, we kind of like forget the money part because we just like love doing this. But yeah, don't forget what all this is for, right? You deserve to have an amazing career that pays you really well and have passive income, investments growing without you lifting a finger. Like you deserve all of that. So just set that standard high for yourself, and best of luck. So good, so fun hanging
Yeah,
out with you guys.
hopefully everyone makes so much money. And remember, money is not a taboo topic. Ask your coworkers how much they make today. And don't be afraid to talk about it. Like at Design Buddies, I'm trying to do a lot of salary transparency stuff because I realized I was underpaid and I realized a lot of people are underpaid. And I'm trying to like equal the playing field a little bit here.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about money. Talk about it all the time. I talk about money with my friends all the time, with my
Yeah, we love
boyfriend.
money. Yeah, it's not taboo. Awesome. Cool. Thanks so much, everyone. See you guys next time.
Bye.
Cool.